What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Terence Bud Crawford. Get this. Terence Crawford says that the Errol Spence fight will happen next year, if at all. And Crawford, of course, signed with BLK Prime. And he said, I'm moving forward with my career, me and Errol. If that fight happens, it will happen next year, said Terence Crawford to Errol Halwani's podcast. I just don't like the fact that a lot of people is blaming me for trying to make the fight. I just blame the business of boxing. I don't blame myself for not one portion of the fight not being made. Okay. He says, I feel like I agreed to everything I needed to agree to, said Crawford, about his negotiations with Spence. I feel like I've done everything that I was supposed to do as an independent fighter. It's only so much I can do. And those are the words of Terence Bud Crawford. And let me counterpunch. Hopefully the fight will still be exciting enough. Hopefully none of them got beat. But then, I think that a lot of people misunderstand what really happened with the negotiations, that they really don't know, or they choose to turn a blind eye to what was really going on. The fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, the negotiations were for this year. They weren't for any other fucking year. They weren't for 2023. They weren't for 2024. They were for this year. And Terence Crawford had been out of the ring for the entire year, waiting on an Errol Spence fight. When doing so, when they were getting the paperwork together, a lot of time had passed by. A lot of things have transpired, the split, then the overall agreement. And the problem I have with Al Haymon is, well, you have two problems. Okay, you have a problem I have with Terence Crawford, and then the other two belong to Al Haymon, because we can't say Errol Spence. We can only say Al Haymon, right? For one, why was the fight pushed back? Why was it pushed to February of next year? Why wasn't it this year? That's the problem. That's one problem. Another problem is, why wasn't the money agreed upon? Why was it, if the whole thing was based on a wing and a prayer, or the idea of doing well in pay-per-view, then why not get a guarantee? It wasn't like it wasn't like 25 flat. There was going to be an upside for both fighters, so they're going to potentially make more than that. So, them saying, well, hey, I'm not letting anyone touch it, that's just Al Haymon's way of saying that, no, this fight won't happen without it happening the way I want it to happen. Now, with Terence Crawford, when Errol Spence asked him where did it come from, he didn't have to be secretive about wherever the trust fund came into. Okay, he didn't have to be that particular type of person. But if Terence had already told Al, though, that, hey, these people, I can't imagine him saying, hey, I'm not going to tell you these people but you know them, and they're willing to put the money up. You know what I mean? I think that conversation had already happened between Al Haymon and Terence Crawford. I think Errol Spence was, where's the money coming from? And people run with it. But understand, Errol Spence is not making and doing any negotiations whatsoever. He's staying at home, doing whatever the hell he does on his everyday life. Hanging out with his kids, spending time with his girl, working on the farm, those type of things that he does. It's not a question of, hey, I'm sitting at the table. No, he's not doing anything. Al Haymon's doing that. So I'm sure that the only thing that I could look at is what wasn't transparent between who was giving the money up. But then again, Al Haymon is the guy you need to talk to. And I'm sure Terence Crawford talked to him. Okay, so there you go. I mean, if he didn't want that fight because he wanted it to be on his terms, that's no different from him not wanting Deontay Wilder to take the DAZN deal. Okay? because it wasn't on his terms and he couldn't control anything over there on that side on how things were done. And I think Al Heyman is a guy that he wants to be in full control of everything that he's a part of. Okay, and if he's not, he doesn't want to be a part of it. And I think that was the problem with Terence Crawford and this new bulk of money, these new investors that he brought to the table and tried to introduce to a fight that he wanted and Errol Spence wanted. Okay, so him saying, yeah, that fight needs to happen, next year at all. Well, if he's missed a step or two, I don't want to see that fight anymore. Why? Because it's not the same type of fight. You know what I mean? Because I'm a firm believer in this. Stop fighting guys that you know you can't fight. You believe in your mind, but your mind alone cannot guarantee a win, especially if your reflexes start slipping. You can't pull the trigger like you used to. You're not the same type of fighter. You've diminished to the point where you couldn't beat this guy anyway right now, or at that point when he decided to fight him. And unfortunately, for a lot of fighters, they find that shit out when they get in there. Like, damn, I'm not where I need to be. I'm off tonight. This is not where I want it to go. So damn, So I don't even really want to see it at that point. If it gets to this time next year and Terence Crawford doesn't look like he looked when he stopped Sean Porter last year, I don't want to see it, because what I don't want to see is competitiveness less, right? I'm not saying that again. But I don't want to see a lack of a competition due to waiting someone out. And I believe that's what Al Heyman was doing with Errol Spence, because he knows chronologically Errol Spence is younger than Terence Crawford. Okay, Terence Crawford's been bouncing from 135 to 140, 140 to 147. So yeah, he's been around a while and a lot longer than Errol Spence has. So the ball's in Errol Spence's favor. So I think it's going to be lighter and lighter of Al Heyman wanting that fight to be done. And I think the longer it takes, the more willing he will become to make that fight done. Bars. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Terence Crawford stating that the fight between himself and Errol Spence will happen next year, if at all. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.